Right then, should we get started? Good morning and welcome to Cabinet on Friday the 23rd of May. I am your chair today, the leader of the council, Mark Stevenson. And as usual, I will jump straight into it. Can I have any apologies for absence, please?
Thank you, Leader. There are no apologies today.
Thank you very much. Buttons on. I can hear myself over there. Can you not hear me? Oh, the light's on. And there you go, look, it's found me again, so it must be working. Right. Can you hear me now? Yeah. And yet nothing changed. Okay, thank you, Councillor Scott, for saying you couldn't hear me. I shall crack on again. So apologies for absence. We've already had there are none. And before I move the agenda any further, I just want to make an announcement that I'm going to change the order of the agenda today. So when we get to item 9, I'm going to skip over 10 and go straight to 11 because I want to take items 12, 13 and 10 all together because they're related to the same subject. So I'll give the reasons why I'm doing that as and when we get to them, but it's just purely for continuity rather than anything else. Right, minutes of the last meeting. I'm happy to move them as a correct copy. And I just need a seconder.
I'm happy to second, Leader.
Thank you very much. Can I have an agreement on that? Thank you very much. I'll sign them in a minute when I move on to another item. Number 3, declarations of interest. Do I have any declarations of interest today? I'll take that as a no. So number 4 is announcements by the leader of the council. I do have one, and that was in reference to the Clacton Leisure Centre heating system, which I had to make an emergency decision about powers delegated to me. But that's been printed in the agenda for everybody to see. It's quite lengthy, so I'm not planning to read it out and just move it as read in the agenda. Everybody okay with that? Okay. In that case, I come to announcements by Cabinet members. Have I got any announcements? Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I've got 3 announcements which I think Cabinet members and other members would be interested in. The first is that I attended the ADEPT President's Awards ceremony last night in London with Lee Healy, our Deputy Chief Executive and Corporate Director for Place and Wellbeing. And I'm pleased to say we were first up. We were first up and we picked up a highly commended award for another award for Sunspot. And as members know, we've already won several awards for the Sunspot and the work there and what the Sunspot has delivered. But this was a really, really nice occasion. And just to give you a bit of background about ADEPT, ADEPT is an association of directors for the environment, economy, planning and transport. And we were actually put into category 1, which was delivering sustainable growth, sponsored by Arcadis. Local authorities have this was the category, local authorities have a pivotal role to play in driving the growth agenda, both as a business themselves, but also in their role as enablers and economic development within their communities. They act as vital partners to the business community, fostering sustainable, inclusive and clean growth. This award is intended to highlight local authorities who have gone beyond traditional roles to promote sustainability, clean growth in line with the government's ambition to tackle climate change, deliver net zero, build resilience and address inequalities. The broad scope of the award includes the delivery of services and infrastructure, housing, transport, waste, economic development, planning and growth, or how it operates as a business. Estate improvements, staff policies, commissioning, procurement and fleet are also areas where you may have initiatives or achievements that suit this category. So you can see this was a really, really prestigious area of the awards that we've been involved in. But I must say this is in partnership with our colleagues at Essex County Council, so it's a partnership win for all of us. And again, just to give you an idea of who were involved in the lineup for this, it was the City of London, Leicestershire County Council, Norfolk County Council, Staffordshire County Council, Westmoreland and Furness Council. So we did pretty well to actually come within that side. And here's the award. And again, just to say, this wouldn't be possible without the hard work of our officers, and including, I will name her again, I know Barbara Poles put a huge amount of work into making this, the Sunspot so as successful as it is, and the rest of the team as well. So thank you very much. My next announcement, Leader, is on the back of Tendering for Growth. The Economic Growth team have grown the Tendering for Growth brand over the last 3 years. This means that there is now an expectation amongst the local business community for the team to continue to deliver high-value information, resources, events and opportunities. In order to meet this expectation, the team have been working on developing a website which will be crucial to ensuring the above is accessible for as many tendering businesses as possible. The site, which is now live, will hold information on how businesses can access free business advice and support through Colby, which is funded by the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, a recently developed suite of training videos covering topics such as financial forecasting, presenting your business and social media, also funded by UK Shared Prosperity Fund. The website will make it easier for businesses to access information on grants and funding opportunities. With a more streamlined layout, business can quickly see what is available for them. This is work in progress, and the team are working hard to populate the site with this in mind. Here are some of the examples what is to come. Further grant schemes to be added, such as extend the season events grants, links to partner organisations such as the North Essex Economic Board, skills and training provider directory, Tendering for Growth events and news as and when they occur, and good news stories such as the Witch Heritage Trail, which was funded by the Economic Growth team through the Rural England Prosperity Fund. So I'd urge members to go on there, hunt for it, look at the Tendering for Growth website, and you'll see what a fantastic site that is now to give support to businesses. And finally, I was really pleased to cut the ribbon at the new Innovation Hub at Parkston, and it's also now the Freeport East headquarters, which is a real bonus for us to actually have Freeport East head office here within this district. And this is on the back of a report which was done by the Opogee Group, which was commissioned by Tendering Council using part of its UK Shared Prosperity Fund allocation, Essex University and Freeport East. The report, which was then commissioned, identified Harwich as a prime location for bringing together a cluster of forward-thinking businesses and organisations involved in clean energy to drive forward economic growth in the area. And opening that centre last week marked a milestone not just for Freeport East, but also for Harwich and the wider region. And what it also did was it showed how partnership can deliver together, whether it be local authorities, community organisations, businesses, which will deliver lasting benefits. And we were pleased because it also included more funding from the Shared Prosperity Fund, which I'm looking forward will be a catalyst for new ideas, new opportunities, and to deliver a stronger local economy. And just to hit on that as well, under the Shared Prosperity Fund, we visited some young people who were doing some really good work. They call themselves Volunteer It Yourself in another place in the district. Well, apparently these young people who they painted and decorated this centre before it opened, and that's now created a good space to deliver forward skills and innovation for the future. So they should be quite proud of themselves as well for actually putting something back into the district and actually gaining the skills that they require themselves. So I'm really pleased to put forward those 3 announcements. That's really good news for the district, really good news for this council, and that's something that we should all be proud of. Thank you very much, Leader.
Thank you very much, Councillor Henderson. And what a great 3 things that you had for us there. So thank you very much for that. Is there any other comments from Cabinet? Nope. Okay, in that case, I will take us on to agenda item number 6, and that's matters referred to the Cabinet by the Council. And in this case, there are none, which takes us nicely on to number 7, which is matters referred to the Cabinet by a committee. Also, there are none. Number 8, leaders of the Council's items. There are no leader of the Council items on this occasion. And so that takes us on to 9, and that's the Cabinet members' item, report of the economic growth, regeneration and tourism portfolio holder. Over to you, Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Leader, and I'm really pleased to move this report today. It's the Rural England Prosperity Fund, the next round. This year's allocation is £197,761, down from the £494,501 last year. Funding is for capital funding. The Rural England Prosperity Fund area is set by the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs using the magic map. The only parts of tendering that cannot apply are Clacton and Holland-on-Sea. The funding is to be allocated under 2 themes, unchanged from the previous programme, but now has sub-themes: communities and place, healthy, safe and inclusive communities, thriving places, supporting local businesses, support for business. Monitoring will be done at the same time as the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, one in October and then the final one in April next year. Monitoring in October will include where things stand on the current spend and what outputs and outcomes have been reached so far. Monitoring in April will be the final return and will include the full spend and the total outputs and outcomes that have been achieved. All projects that grants are given for must be completed in full by the 31st of March 2026. After the successful delivery of the REPF over the last 2 years, it's recommended the continuation of both the business grants and the community grants. They will also ensure that the grant schemes can be launched quickly to maximise the time successful applicants have to deliver their projects. £120,000 for the business grants between £5,000 to £20,000, match funded needed of at least 25%. £77,761 for community grants between £1,000 to £20,000. No match funding is required. Leader, I'm pleased to move the recommendation on page 27.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. And do you have a seconder? Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Leader. The work of the Rural England Prosperity Fund has been excellent over the last year, and I'm very pleased that this council will be able to provide further support to businesses and community groups in our rural areas. The council invested £610,000 in 28 rural businesses and 23 community infrastructure projects in 23 to 25. It helps businesses expand, improve efficiency and embrace innovation and help us to empower our rural communities. We now continue this programme in 24 to 25. I would like to second the recommendations in this report, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Do I have any comments from anyone else? Okay, in that case, it's been moved and seconded. Can I have an agreement on that, please?
Agree.
Thank you very much. Okay, as I said before, I'm going to skip over agenda item number 10 and go to agenda item number 11. I'll return to a 10 at a later point. Number 11 is the management team items report, the monitoring officer, local government, social care, ombudsman finding. This is you, Councillor Baker.
It is indeed, Chair, Leader. Thank you. It's the report, as you can see, is merely for us to receive a note. As you've just said, the local government and social care ombudsman has recently determined a complaint received by it and have found that there was maladministration. This relates to a family being placed in bed and breakfast accommodation for over the 6 weeks. They were actually in there for 10 weeks and 3 days. As the Ombudsman determined there was maladministration, he directed that this council issue an apology and also a payment of £1,000 should be paid. His decision, the Ombudsman decision notice was dated in March, and both the apology and payment have been actioned. The recommendation, Leader, is on page 71, and it is recommended that Cabinet receives and notes this report, and in particular the findings, orders, recommendations from the local government and social care ombudsman in the case covered by this report, the compliance with those matters by the council, and the wider learning points set out, and I so move.
And you require a seconder, do you have one? Councillor Potts.
I'm happy to second this report formally, Chair. Leader, thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any comments? Okay, can I move for approval, please? Thank you very much. And that takes us to item number 12. And I've got something to read out here. And it's for the record for the public. Cabinet is asked to consider passing the following resolution. They understand section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the press and public be excluded from the meeting during consideration of agenda items 13 on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 3 and 5 of part 1 of schedule 12A as amended of the Act. To put that in layman's terms, paragraphs 3 and 5 refer to commercial and legal advice in part B that we will need to discuss before we come back to part A for the final report. So can I have a seconder on that, please?
Happy to second, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. And can I have an agreement with Cabinet? Thank you very much. In that case, could I ask for the exclusion of press and public, and can we turn the live stream?
All I want to do is just remind members, obviously, that we're now considering the Part A report and the contents of the Part A report.
Okay. I'd like to thank the members of the public who are watching online and those that watch later for their indulgence. Okay, we're going to item agenda number 10, and this is the Cabinet members for report of environment and ICT portfolio holder, the update on the waste and recycling collection and street sweeping contract procurement. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Leader. When I took on this portfolio last year, the work building up to the procurement of this contract was well underway. As a Cabinet, the decision was taken in July 2024 to go out to the market to find a contractor to deliver these important services from April 2026 and beyond. At that point in time, and when committing to an 8-year contract term, we were unaware of local government reorganisation, which I will hereon refer to as LGR. As you all know, LGR means that, based on the current timeline, TDC will not exist beyond May 2028, when a new unitary authority is formed. I know that my colleagues agree with me when I say that had we been aware of LGR back in July last year, we would not have committed ourselves to an 8-year contract term. It is not appropriate to set up the new unitary authority in whatever form that takes with a long-term contract it has not had involvement in procuring. This is especially pertinent when at least 2 of the areas that are likely to be in that unitary authority operate in-house waste services. Looking to the longer term, we therefore need to give the unitary authority the best opportunity to deliver a service that takes into account a larger geographical area and the fact that a unitary authority will be responsible for both waste collection and disposal. This is a complex procurement exercise, and a lot has been done to get to this stage. I must remind everyone that we are in the middle of procurement, and hence we have both a Part A and Part B report today. The changes we are proposing to make are not without risk of challenge, and those risks and the associated mitigations are set out in Part B, as we heard. I request that we all respect that and focus on keeping this procurement moving forward in the direction proposed in the report, and would remind us all to keep the commercially sensitive information and legal advice provided in Part B out of the public domain. I therefore propose the recommendations set out on pages 50 to 51. I should highlight that the service to residents will be enhanced with a wider range of recycling collected at the curbside, including glass, and, for some who do not receive it currently, food waste. The street cleaning service will also be at least as good as that we have in place currently. I wish to finish by extending my thanks to the officers for their considerable investment of time in this waste contract. The volume of work has been substantial, impacting not only the directly involved officers, but also those whose responsibilities have expanded as they've absorbed colleagues' tasks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith, and I'm happy to second that with a couple of comments of my own. As you've already identified, LGR is clearly a key component of our decision today to propose the changes in the procurement. I think, obviously, affordability also raises a significant concern. An increase in the contract price is affordable, but only in the short term, and this is in a broader context a significant concern for local government generally, general fund budgets, and a cost pressure I'm sure other councils will be experiencing in the near future. So, as you've said, this is a complex procurement, and we will be recommencing dialogue discussions with the bidders who are involved as soon as possible. So, I'm happy to second that. I'm going to go to questions if there are any. Councillor Honeywood.
Thank you, Leader. As a member of the previous administration, and I believe Councillor Bray was part of that as well, we were given advice that the current level of service provided would come at a significant increase in costs. and obviously that is borne in part by the Environment Act 2021 and the additions to that. We were made aware of that, and it was of great concern to us that the current level of service being met would be financially challenging to this council. Can I ask firstly, was this cabinet given that advice?
I'm going to say yes, although the previous portfolio holder was the one that would probably have been given that advice directly. But we were aware of challenges. As I said, if you want to say significant, I think that's your word, not the one I would use. And at the time, there was various bits and pieces, but I think there's other questions coming, so I'm going to wait for them.
Okay, so I'm surprised that the advice wasn't given to your entire cabinet, from what you're saying, it was only to the cabinet member, because when I was on the previous administration, that advice was given to the whole cabinet, and it was a significant issue to us.
Sorry.
We go to Lisa Hastings, Warranshire Officer.
Just nodded with the Section 151 officer, and I think we need to be clear for the record that that advice was given to all of Cabinet. It was contained in the July report last year that went to Cabinet. It was in there.
Thank you for that.
Sorry, and I was just about to correct it because I think misinterpretation by me, but yes, we were given that.
So based on that advice, why was such a high specification put forward for tender, knowing that that would be over and above the already high cost of the current service provided? What you've done is up the level of service. It's obvious there would have been a significant increase in costs on top of that, when the advice was we'd be struggling to meet the first or the current level of service provided.
I think there's a couple of differences. Firstly, we are ambitious about what we want to deliver, and that definitely played a part into it. But we went through a different process that you got that than previous administrations went through. I think we went through a competitive dialogue, so we set the bar a little bit high. Yes, I'll grant that. And there was the option to bring that bar down if we thought we could. So we wanted to see what was the art of the possible. What we didn't expect to see was the various uplifts in various. We didn't expect the waste contract, not the waste contract, the Environment Act to be as much as it was when that came in. We didn't expect certain government initiatives to come in and push staffing costs up. And I think the uplift has been higher than we thought. So I don't think they were predictable, and that's one of the reasons why we went down the route we did.
Well, I'm afraid I disagree on that. I think it was known about. In fact, in the press release, it says it had been expected that the underlying costs of the contractors would rise due to inflationary pressures, while the costs have also increased due to the requirements of the Environment Act 2021. That's 2021. We're in 2025 now. So my view is what's happened here is advice has been given and advice has been ignored by the Cabinet because they went for a higher scheme that is now going to cost the taxpayer more as more legal advice and consultancy is required to do this. And I think LGR is an attempt to shy away from the reality. Blaming LGR isn't the answer. If LGR happens or not, what the prices came in at and the fact that we can't meet them is where we are. And that's been a Cabinet decision to do that. A Cabinet decision that the previous administration was advised the current level would be unachievable without significant cost. How on earth could such a high level be met? And now it's costing the taxpayer even more money.
I'll come back to that. I don't think even you, with your advice before the administration, would have predicted a £7 million increase. Nobody in this room would have predicted that. We did know it was going to go up. It's already been admitted in the press release that you talked, and we did know that. But I think you're missing the point. The competitive dialogue was to set out our stall and to understand we wanted to raise a better specification for residents around how our waste was collected and deliver a better service. Now, things changed, and LGR is most definitely a component to that. And maybe we got lucky, maybe we didn't. We can argue that day in, day out. But the truth of the matter is that we aspired to deliver a better service based on rationale that was worked through by all the Cabinet and officers, and then things changed. And now we've had it. And if you'd have turned around to me at the beginning of my administration, when Councillor Bush was the portfolio holder and agreed with this and wholeheartedly with this approach, that we would have gone with an 8, there is no chance we would have done that, because we would never have done what's called fettering the discretion of a unitary coming into power by putting it in a position where 2/3 of it had an in-house system and 1/3 of it was in an 8-year contract that nobody could do anything about. So you're right. You know, things have changed. We were aware of the challenges, and no, we couldn't foresee the £7 million that we got to come through.
No, I just want to draw everyone's attention, in, including Councillor Honeywood. You said you had all the information available to you as a Cabinet. When the government policy statement published on the 29th of November 2024, you weren't Cabinet then, but that states the new default requirements for most household and workplaces will be for containers, and it give those stipulations. You didn't have that information to hand when you were in Cabinet, because the government didn't place that on record until after you were out of Cabinet. So you couldn't have had all the information available to you.
I'm happy to respond to that. So from what you're saying, Councillor Henderson, the information we were given was showing a significant cost, but during this administration you were informed that that cost would be even higher, and you still progressed with it.
I'm just saying, you did not have all the information available to you. We've been working through this ever since, so that wasn't, you couldn't have made a decision on the cost at that time, or any other decision.
I agree with what you're saying on that point. I'm happy to agree with that point, but what I'm saying is...
Please, Councillor.
Yes, sorry, Chair, sorry. What I'm saying is that the advice we were given said that there would be significant increases. What you're saying is you have received additional information during the life of this administration in which those costs would be even higher. I can't see how that justifies the point you're making. The fact that more facts have become available under your administration actually makes the situation worse, not better.
I think I've asked, that's been asked and then been answered, so I'm going to ask any other questions. Councillor Bray.
Thanks, Leader. Firstly, I do concur quite a lot with my colleague Councillor Honeywood on some of the comments he's made. I think I liken it a little bit to myself going and getting a quote for a new Rolls Royce. It's a nice idea, but I know I can't afford it, so that just seems a little silly. I would like an idea of the consultation fees that have been paid so far to date, because they, of course, now seem to be somewhat wasted from my point of view. There are a few other things I'd like to come back to. You did say that it's now affordable. The increase is still significant, and we haven't really tied down exactly what that increase will be. Of course we haven't. How is it affordable? We've heard year on year pretty much that anything extra that we want, we'll have to give something up to get it. So I think the question people will be asking is, given that this is an extra, as in it's an extra cost, what do we need to give up to get it, if anything? Can you help us with that, please?
I'll start with the consultants. It's not waste. A lot of that work will still be used in the current procurement. As for the costs, when we know what they are, I think it's fair to say that we do have things like the Community Infrastructure Fund Reserve. We do have the Forecast Risk Fund. You know, these are amounts of money that are set aside to smooth out any blips that we might have in spikes in expenditure and everything else. We have spoken with the 151 officer, and whilst I can't give you exact details of exactly where that money will come from right now, you know, we're confident that we can do that, and that'll come out soon, you know. So it's not something that we're trying to hide. You know, it has to be paid for. It's a statutory service, but I don't see us cutting any other services to make it, and that's what you're implying, and so that's where I'm going. Thank you very much.
Come back, Luke. I'll come back on. Yeah, not employing, just asking. Don't ask, don't find out. So, okay, hearing what you're saying, I'd like to think that we'll have some idea of exactly where that finance is coming from, because it has to come from somewhere. We don't have a magic wand. It's got somewhere it's coming from. I think the other thing that's being raised, certainly by people I'm speaking to, is the concern that as a result of this, the piece in the press was was picked up by a lot of people, and it was a little bit alarming for a lot of people. So the question I'm being asked is, can you offer us an assurance that we will continue with a 2-weekly contract? So collections will be made 2-weekly, because people are now saying if we can't afford it, well, we're going to get our bins collected once a month. Can you give us some assurance that that won't be the case?
That's exactly what's written in the report. Yeah, so put it in the report. There you go. There's your assurance. Yeah. So if I wasn't sure, I wouldn't put it in there.
Thanks,
So,
Leader. Most of our public don't read the report, so it's nice to hear it said.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good. Okay, I'll leave that for a moment and let others go.
Okay. Councillor Placey.
Can I just make a comment, really, that the new service, whenever it comes in, the curbside collection of glass will be most welcome by my residents. That is all I get asked. A lot of them have real problems getting to the bin sites, so they will be clapping their hands.
Couldn't agree with you, and the improvements in plastic collection as well. So it's been moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by myself. Can I get an agreement? Agreed. Thank you.